Hello and welcome. This is part 26 of 32 of my NFL ranking series, and for this one we have the Cincinnati Bengals. The Cincinnati Bengals finished last year at 10-7, and they pretty much caught everyone off guard last year as they ended up losing in the Super Bowl to the Rams. When it came to this team, a lot of people were, I would say a lot of people did not expect them to make it this far and do what they did. There was basically memes about the Bengals the whole season about how bad they were playing, and there's memes about how their ownership was and all that. And then Joe Burrow did what he does. He made that team somewhat good. Because if you look at that team, they had some talent here and there, but nobody thought this team was going to be a Super Bowl team. And moving on to in the upcoming future now, this team had its holes obviously, because that's why they lost in the Super Bowl, and this team did have some issues that they are trying to handle when it comes to the upcoming season. So, looking into the future, the Bengals are looking like they're a young team that's starting to become one of the better teams in the NFL. The Bengals finished 10-7 last year, and I think they caught everybody off guard with how well they played and what they ended up doing. Because look at their schedule. They didn't do there were some games where the team was just a very interesting team when it came to last year, because they had some bad losses. For example, they lost to the Bears. They lost to the Bears and Jets, but then it's even an interesting season last year because, they lost to the Bears and Jets, but then they beat Baltimore and Kansas City. So it was very interesting. The team had its moments where it seemed like it was nah, and then it had some really good moments that saw it in the up. But when it came to their little run through the playoffs, that was insane. I remember watching that Raiders game, and it was just awesome to see how excited the fans were and everything. And honestly, I thought that's where it was going to end. They got their one win, and it'd be interesting to see what they do next year. But somehow this team ended up taking all the way, and they beat Tennessee, and then they somehow beat Kansas City. That game was insane, and then boom, they're in the Super Bowl. And when it comes to this upcoming season, it's going to be interesting to see if this team takes a little bit of a step back or if they're able to do more of the same. Looking at this team's depth chart, they have some of the same names as they have Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Joe Burrow, and then Joe Mixon. Samaje Perine is a backup running back, and this team has Hayden Hurst at tight end as they lost C.J. Uzomah. But, however, they did get basically 4 other 5 starters are upgrades offensive line. So it's going to be interesting to see how they do this year now. They got an upgraded line to hopefully protect Joe Burrow, so it's going to be hopefully he takes a little bit less hits this year and he's able to do a little bit more. They do have a very slow pace of play with Zach Taylor, so it's going to be interesting to see if this offense takes a step up in the pace of play or if they play similar to how they did last year. Defensively, they still have some of the same players as well. They have Von Bell, Jesse Bates, Sam Hubbard, Trey Hendrickson. And this team, Trey Hendrickson was a sneaky pick for them last year, as he ended up having an amazing season. So it's going to be fun to see if this team can do what they did last year. Because, this team surprised a lot of people with the way they played last year. And there's a chance that they could come win this division back-to-back. But with the Ravens going to be healthy this year, and the Browns getting Deshaun Watson, depending on his whole situation, it's going to be fun to see who wins this division. When it comes to this upcoming season, the reason I have this team ranked 7th is I think they're going to be about a 10-win team, about probably 10 to 11 win team. I think they're going to basically do similar to what they did last year. Last year was a really good good season for them, and the play they did was amazing. For what this team was and what they were supposed to be, they played pretty well last year. And now that Joe Burrow's kind of established himself as a pretty good quarterback, I don't think many teams are going to be sleeping on this team as much now. So I feel like they're going to get a few teams tougher shots. And regardless, I still think looking at their schedule, they still have some tough games. Obviously, Baltimore, Dallas will probably be a tough game. Their division's going to be interesting this year. Tampa Bay is going to be a tough game at the end of the year. And then they got Buffalo and Baltimore to round out their season. So this team's going to play against some good teams. But, this was the Super Bowl runner-up last year. So, just solely based on the fact that this team did make it to the Super Bowl last year and they did get some upgrades to their team. I don't see how this team shouldn't be able to win their division potentially again for the second year in a row, and then maybe make some noise in the playoffs again. When it comes to the Bengals this upcoming season, I think this is about to be a 10. I think they're basically going to do the same thing as they did last year, 10-11 win team. So they'll be about 10-7 or 11-6. Or it's basically, I basically think it's between the Ravens and the Bengals right now. Either of those two could flip flop. Really, it just depends on who has the better year. I just gave it to the Bengals because of what they showed last year. And I mean, the Ravens are definitely a scary team in this division. So when it comes to what this team's going to do this upcoming season, I mean, they're definitely going to be a good team, I'd say. And it's going to be a battle between them and the Ravens to see who's going to be on top of the division and who's going to be having some home field advantage in playoffs.